Hey guys, this is Dave with Moniology. Hope everyone is having a great day. Today's Tuesday, September 26, 2017, and this is a user-generated watch list where we go through some of the names that we've looked at in the past and see how they're doing today. Let's take a look. Okay, so we'll start with Bovie Medical Corp, BVX. It's had a little bit of a pullback from 325 here, but it's had quite the run since we made the call around this price area around 250, and it's no surprise because we kind of broke out above this this 60 RSI level here, and now we're kind of breaking below that. So it remains to be seen whether that's going to be recaptured in the coming weeks ahead, or we're going to have a bit of a pullback to basically consolidate above that 50 weekly EMA and 200 EMA around between $2.80 and $3 for a couple of weeks, followed by a move higher. I think that this is going to make a run towards 575 at some point, either later this year or into next year. So some significant upside ahead here. MACDs are at multi-year highs. Well, not multi-year, but certainly in 2017. Cash flow is very positive. Accumulation is great. So a lot of positive developments here, and I would be adding to my position, not selling. And we really like this name. Next on the list is Protalix Biotherapeutics, PLX. This one is breaking out of its downtrend, and we like this one. We think that there's some substantial upside here. We pointed this out here when we initially broke out. We've had a bit of a consolidation above this trend line, and no surprise, that often is the case. And so our first price target remains about $1, but this is a very good sign. We broke above the 40 line on RSI. We've gone ahead and retested it, and looks like successfully. So expect some upside, especially as the MACDs continue curling above 0. Next on the list is OWCP Pharmaceutical Corp. Well, I hate to say it, but this one just does not look good right now. Unless it can recapture that 25 support zone in the coming days, it looks like it wants to head lower, possibly to retest that 12 area. So we like this name on a fundamental basis, but it's just not performing well. So unless it can have a nice hammer pattern here in the coming days and retake this line, we think that ultimately lower prices are ahead before an ultimate resumption to the upside down the road. Pernix Therapeutics, PTX. This one is another name we like. It broke out of this downtrend here, multi-year downtrend. Now it's consolidating above this trend line and this bottom support level of 250, and it's building strength on the RSI. That's a very important indicator. Before getting long on this one, I would want it to be above the middle Bollinger Band on the weekly, but I wouldn't be surprised that we see a very strong move in the coming weeks, because MACDs are starting to curl towards 0, and that's likely going to coincide with RSI breaking above 50. CATB Pharmaceuticals, CATB. Well, this one is a very, very strong looking chart. It's been basing for basically all of 2017. We're above the middle Bollinger Band. We're above this 150 line of resistance. We're at multi-year highs in the MACDs, and accumulations really picking up. Money flow is in positive direction, and we're above 50. So now we're retesting the 50 area. If that holds, that's your sign to buy long. I mean, there could be some volatility between 150 and 2, but ultimately a break of 2 sends shares to 3, possibly as high as $4 or $5. There's a lot of upside in CATB. CGIX. This one looks fairly weak, and now it might find some support when RSI is around the same levels where we broke out of in terms of price last time around here. So if this proves to be support, then you want to get back in long on this one. I wouldn't touch this until it gets above $3. But if this RSI support does not hold, we expect a test of the $2 area, kind of double bottom with this particular retest of the $2 breakout. This has a nice fundamental story behind it, but for the time being, I would stay away unless you already own it. TEUM, Parateum Corp. This one looks very, very good. We've had this on our watch list. We've played this a little bit. We don't currently own this, but it's had this nice basing pattern over the last couple of months since 2017. The MACDs are at multi-year highs, and it's above the middle Bollinger Band in a very, very nice cup and handle formation, and we believe it's breaking out with a initial price target of around 250, followed by a move towards 5. There's some significant upside, and there's some positive divergence on the RSI, where RSI is at 50, same level that as was the case when the price was significantly higher. So we like this name, and it's one of the highest on our watch list. Next on the list is APTO Biosciences. We own this in and out of this one since we broke out of this particular downtrend around 1, and we like the upside here. We still think that this is going to make a run towards 2, and it's just consolidating. One thing to consider is there is possible divergence here, some weakness on RSI. It seems to be having trouble breaking above that 60 level on the RSI. So if you don't own it, I wouldn't touch it until it breaks above $2 or potentially retest this $1 zone. But if you do own it, I think a stop loss above 150 is a fairly safe bet. And if you want to be a little bit more risk tolerant than 137, that middle Bollinger Band is a nice support zone. It also coincides with the 50 EMA around that 151 level. Ultimately, I think this is headed to $4, and so there's some substantial upside on APTO. Catamount Holdings, KDMN. Well, it looked very good until this week, and it's pulled back a little bit, but it's had quite the run since we've had it on our watch list, and multiple weeks, and no surprise to get a pullback. If this weekly level, middle Bollinger Band at 284 holds, would expect to see a resumption of this up move, but it's broken that 50 level on the weekly RSI, so I don't want to touch this one until that 50 level is recaptured to the upside. For the time being, this is kind of a bearish development. If you own it, I would consider having a stop loss below $3. If you don't own it, not a time to get in at this point. You got to look at the daily and hourly chart patterns. RGLS, this is one that we currently own. Beautiful pattern here. We really like this name both on a fundamental and technical basis. They've had some nice insider buying. MACDs are at multi-year highs. It broke out at this short-term downtrend and likely going to test this longer-term downtrend here around the $2 level, and RSI is showing some very positive bullish divergence here relative to various other price points, and we think that this is going to see $2 in short order. Next on the list is ITEK Pharmaceuticals, ITEK, another one that looks fantastic. We called this one around when we saw this bullish hammer pattern, and no surprise we've seen some more upside. $2 is the initial price target. If that breaks, then there's a lot of upside ahead potential, as much as $6 a share. They came out, we thought that they were going to break out here. It was initially on our watch list, and then they had some bad news reported, so that it dropped. But RSI, rather MACDs, had continued to build strength, and that's a very positive development. And we think that you see RSI here is higher today than it was when price was at $2. So we think that $4 to $6 is definitely in the cards for ITEK. CBAY Therapeutics, CBAY. This one's a beautiful chart, rounded base pattern, and it's just been going up in a very nice trend-like pattern ever since, and our price target is 14. MACDs look like they're about to cross 0 again. Accumulation, cash flow, everything is positive. This is, if you like to invest in strong names, this is definitely one of the strongest on this watch list. ALQA, ALQA Biomedical. Well, this one we liked from the standpoint that it has shown positive divergence, and we expect a very big move if it can break above 50 on the weekly RSI. But bottom line is, it's still below, it's still in this downtrend on price, and so until it proves otherwise, it's still in a downtrend. But I would keep this very close on your radar. If it breaks through this 58.60 level, we think there's some substantial upside. MACDs are showing some very nice strength. Accumulation is starting to pick up, so some weakness, but for those that have some nerves of steel, this one might be for you. Now, speaking of nerve, Minerva Neurosciences, NERV. This one is a bit of a fickle, if you will. It's starting to move higher. It had a very nice move that we owned it from here all the way to here. We sold out around that 10 level. It's fallen pretty substantially, but it's shown divergence, positive divergence, where RSI here was higher at 555 was higher than when we were at 650. That's a positive development. Now we've broken out of this downtrend. Now we're showing continued RSI divergence, and we think that this is going to make a move towards that 13 level at some point this year. But until it breaks above that 50 on the middle Bollinger Band, level around 775, I wouldn't necessarily be playing this name. Synthetic Biologics, SYN, beautiful breakout of this downtrend. MACDs are at multi-year highs, and so we want to see this particular name break the 70 level in RSI. We think it will. It might need a couple weeks of consolidation here above the 50 EMA, but ultimately a move towards 150 is definitely in the cards to test this 200 EMA. One of the better looking charts on our watch list. Now we're going to mix it up. We're going to look at some mining names. International Tower Hill, THM. Beautiful chart. Broke out above this downtrend. Now we're consolidating above that breakout level around 50. RSI is finding support around that 50 on the weekly RSI. Our first price target remains 75, followed by 150. This is one of the better names in the sector, precious metal sector, which is definitely breaking out longer term. Fortuna Silver Mines, FSM. Similar type charts to THM. We've got this bullish flag correction. We broke out of that. Now we've been consolidating above that breakout level, and it might take a couple more weeks, but ultimately this is going to resume to the upside, and as precious metals continue to break higher, this is going to have much higher prices. I expect to see $10 within the next 12 months on this particular name. Northern Dynasty, NAK. This is one that we own. It's a beautiful chart, and while we had a little bit of a pullback, perhaps a washout, we think that 350 is definitely in the cards, possibly much higher. We see some very nice divergence here. RSI here at 57 is higher than it was when price was at 242, and so expect a very nice run. I would continue to be adding to this particular name. Polymet Mining Corp, PLM. For the time being, it looks to be doing a double bottom with potentially positive divergence here, which is a positive development, but until it breaks above the 65 level, I wouldn't be touching it. But if it does break out, there can be some pretty substantial upside. One thing I'll point out is you do have this downtrend break here, and we kind of retested it, and so now we're retesting it from the downside, from the upside, which is a positive development. But you want to see some strength until you buy this particular name. Next in the list is Anglo American, NGLOY. This is a platinum play. I believe it's the largest platinum producer in the world, and we've been very high in platinum for about 5 years, and it hasn't played out the way we wanted to, but this has been quite the move in this particular name. 153 all the way to $10, and we believe it's going to be moving much higher in the coming months and years ahead. So a longer term perspective, this is one of the better names to own in the platinum space. 22nd Century Group, XXII. This one has done really well over the last couple of weeks, and no surprise once we broke out above this trend line here. Let me make some adjustments on this particular chart. Once we broke out of the trend line here, about 150 area, then it was kind of takeoff time for this particular name. It's finding support around that 260 level. It's kind of bullish flagging, and ultimately we think that this is going to resume higher and make a run towards that 640 level over here that was tapped in March of 2014. So some substantial upside on this name. If you already own it, great. If not, now might be a good time to add or initiate position. All right, next on the list is UEC, a Uranium Energy Corp. It's still in an uptrend, and it's got one of the better fundamental stories in the particular sector. And ultimately, when uranium does take off, this is going to fly. Our first price target longer term is $3, but it still needs to break above this 150 area. We think it's going to do so in the coming weeks. But if you're a momentum trader and you're not a value investor, I wouldn't touch this until it breaks above that 145, 150 area and shows some pretty nice volume. Because right now the volume is pretty weak, and there doesn't seem to be much activity in this particular name. Next Gen Energy, NXE, this is one that we own, but it's just acting very poorly right now. I mean, it's potentially creating some higher highs and higher lows on RSI, which is a positive development, but it can't seem to break above this $3 area. So until it does, this is range bound between $2 and $3 a share. But on a longer term basis, we think that there's some substantial upside in Next Gen. Plug, PLUG. This is one that you want to be plugged into, and a break above $3 is going to send shares much higher, possibly as high as that 1170 area. So some substantial upside down the road for this particular name. We call this once we broke out of this downtrend. Now we've been successfully basing here above the middle Bollinger Band, which is very bullish. MACDs are now above 0, and so there's some very nice upside in Plug. And finally on our list is BVX, but we actually went through it already, so that'll be it for this particular watch list. Please, if you have any other requests, please send us 5 to 10 names that you want us to take a look at, and we might make a video on your watch list. Thank you for following StockTwits at Moniology, Twitter at Moniology, and please subscribe to our videos on YouTube at Moniology channel. Thanks guys, and have a wonderful day.